I am a personal trainer and a parent. Up until now, I have introduced various methods for those who cannot perform pull-ups. It can be quite challenging to improve in this area, and many people struggle to progress. As we move into a new era, there are likely more individuals who are unable to do pull-ups. I have suggested that those who cannot perform them should focus on assisted movements, like kicking up and lowering themselves. However, I believe that by now, many people have improved their abilities, as it has been 1 or 2 years since then. I think there are many who can do it now. Alternatively, there are some people who can already do a certain number of pull-ups, but there is a desire among those who cannot perform a pull-up to be able to do so. Of course, I completely understand that feeling. I think many want to be the kind of person who can do pull-ups rather than not being able to do them, so it's better to be able to do them. However, the question is whether the purpose of doing this training is simply to be able to perform pull-ups. While there are people whose only goal is to be able to do pull-ups, we must consider the reason behind why we are doing this. I believe that pull-ups are not just for getting up, but for strengthening the muscles in the back. Therefore, I hope people will focus on doing pull-ups that truly build the latissimus dorsi to create a strong and attractive back, rather than just performing them for the sake of going up. Today, I would like to explain a more advanced method of doing pull-ups that will help you build a more impressive back. However, this method is not without benefits for those who cannot yet perform a pull-up. Even those who are not able to do pull-ups can benefit from this approach. Keep this in mind, and I want you to try to get closer to that image. Starting from about half of that point makes it easier, so knowing this will help you get closer to your goal. First, when it comes to pull-ups, you go up and then down. So there is a back and forth aspect to it, and where you start from matters. However, in the explanation I'm about to give, I want to intentionally start from the descending part rather than the ascending part. This is an explanation aimed at those who cannot do it. I mentioned to kick up and come down, but if you can do that to some extent, I want you to aim for something higher. What I want you to do is to perform pull-ups, which is essential for training the latissimus dorsi. The back muscles need to contract and stretch repeatedly. If you don't do that, you won't develop the muscles. This is exactly the same as performing an arm curl, where you contract and stretch. Similarly, if you only focus on going up without properly engaging the back, it can lead to a rounded back position when you pull up. Alternatively, if you are able to pull up but your shoulders are raised like this, it means that while you are technically above the bar, your shoulders are elevated. This causes the latissimus dorsi to be stretched, right? If the latissimus dorsi is stretched and you are just getting closer to the bar, it looks like the muscles are not engaged properly. Instead, you should be aware that the muscles might be stretched like this and you need to contract them. However, contracting them doesn't mean pulling them this way. It means engaging them from this side. Lower the scapula and then pull the scapula further inward. I want you to reach this point. Lowering and pulling inward should both happen. In reality, everything should come in at an angle, relative to the body. If we consider this direction, lowering is straight down, but pulling in might be more towards this side. However, we want to find a midpoint, where we can pull in at this angle. It's about shortening to that angle. When you lower, the back team has to go to this midpoint and then extend from there. Therefore, when you start this exercise, I want you to begin with the correct contraction. Now, I would like everyone to try this. Touch your shoulder. When you include your shoulder, the scapula naturally rises. The latissimus dorsi opens up, and this is the normal position. It is more than the normal position. Lower the normal letters and then open them. Touch the front part of this shape and spread it diagonally. When viewed from the side, it looks like this, and from the back it has this kind of appearance. Here the shape should be fully opened, creating a form between the collarbone and the outside, which allows for an opening. This way the upper part of the chest will rise up, creating a shape that opposes this direction. I want you to feel like you are moving as you enter this position. Do you feel the same contraction in your back now? You do, right? I want you to get into the same position. Well, if you suddenly jump up and try to do it, you won't be able to. So, for those who can't do it, you can use a lower pull-up bar or a machine at the gym, setting it a bit lower to practice in that position. If you can adjust the height, you can lower it. This is quite low. It is indeed quite low. In this position, lower yourself like this and close it up so it looks like this. Now I'm closing it like this. Hang down while maintaining this closed position. So this is where you start. You lower yourself while maintaining this tight form. I want to keep the shape fixed as soon as I close it. The moment I hold it, I want it to remain unchanged. I want to keep it fixed in that shape. One aspect is entering from this contraction, going into a complete contraction. Well, for those who cannot perform this contraction, I encourage you to try this. I will explain it again from a point where you can do it to some extent. If you can do pull-ups to some extent, I want you to set the goal of bringing your lowered position up to this point. When you pull up, it's not just about imagining that you can pull up. Think of it as if you are being viewed from behind, like the camera is right there. The contraction is the most important thing you want to focus on. When doing an arm curl, you visualize the point of contraction, and it's the same concept here. First, we will aim for that goal, and then we will proceed from there. When coming down from the pull-up, it is important to avoid rounding your back. Right now, I am keeping my back arched. As I descend, I want to maintain that arch. I want to ensure that the degree of this arch does not change as I come down. Some people tend to round their backs during this exercise. When the back rounds, it feels like the muscle strength is lost and the resistance does not return effectively. As a result, the latissimus dorsi does not develop properly. Therefore, when performing pull-ups, it is important to lower the scapula and keep the back straight, maintaining that arched position throughout the movement. What I want to emphasize is that the alignment of the spine should remain consistent with each repetition. As for how low to lower yourself, I find it easier to demonstrate at a slightly lower position. But if I go too low, my feet touch the ground. So, let's assume a setting where my feet don't touch. Please focus on my back. When considering how low to go, you should aim to lower yourself until your back is arched. And from this normal position, you should shift the scapula. I want you to shift the scapula, not just here, but all the way to this point, to fully stretch the latissimus dorsi. Instead of just splitting here, if you shift the scapula further and raise it to the point where your shoulders shrug, it will stretch the latissimus dorsi even more. Just by doing this, you can extend it an additional 5 to 7 centimeters from here, which means you are really elongating the latissimus dorsi. However, be mindful of the elbows. It's not fully extended. Once it is fully extended, it will look like this, so relax. Right now, the only part that is tense is here. Everything else will be relaxed, and the elbows will subtly shift like this. While maintaining this slight shift, the scapula will be misaligned. When you reach that point, the latissimus dorsi will remain tense while being stretched. From there, you will pull up. From here, you start pulling from the shifted position. You begin to contract and lift after reaching this point. By shifting this way, you can effectively stretch the latissimus dorsi, especially since this particular movement heavily engages it. This makes it easier to create that external expansion. So, you go up to that point and then pull yourself up. Now, when you're going up, it's about how you ascend. And it goes back to the contraction we discussed earlier. It's quite common to think you're pulling yourself up, but let's try it once. Even if you think you're pulling yourself up, you might actually be leaning back. Many people do this. As a result, you can see that you're not getting close to the bar at all. It may seem like you are pulling up, but you are not getting close enough to the bar. If you don't get closer, the contraction won't be effective. When you get closer to the bar, the latissimus dorsi contracts significantly. Probably, in this position compared to that position, the way of contracting is about 1/3 effective. It doesn't really change your back much. So, this kind of trickery is not good. You shouldn't deceive yourself. The bar should be close to your collarbone. I want you to imagine getting closer. When you get closer, it feels like you're actually moving away. You should bring the bar closer to your collarbone. And as you do that, you are moving upward in that direction, which indicates contraction. You go up because you are contracting, right? But does that mean you shouldn't contract while going up? In side raises, it may seem like you're doing a lot, but if you're shrugging your shoulders while doing it, the dumbbells are going up without any contraction at all. Now, since it's a dumbbell, you can still lift it. If you are not connected, there is no contraction at all. Now, it seems like the torso is lifting in this way. There is still no contraction. If that happens, it won't change into a triangle shape, Just like that, as you get closer to the bar, you can really squeeze the latissimus dorsi. Please aim for a lifting motion that goes towards that. And well, at the top position we talked about earlier, there is a contraction. You enter into the contraction and you will keep repeating that cycle. I understood how to use my back and shoulders when pulling up. However, when it comes to my abdomen and lower back, I completely lose control. When I relax and hang from a higher bar, my abdomen is completely loose. There's no tension in my abdomen at all. If my abdomen were engaged, it would look different. And if I tense my lower back too much, I end up pushing with my lower back. Well, that's better than being completely out of control, but still. Ideally, in the long run, the goal is to perform a pull-up without engaging the lower back, spine, or abdomen. The body should be completely straight and the legs should not be tense either. Some people bend their legs like this, but that movement is unnecessary. The ideal state is to have no tension in the lower body, using only the back and arms to pull and close the movement, focusing on the latissimus dorsi and scapula. Well, being able to lift yourself up using just your back and the pectoral muscles will lead to the development of those muscles. I hope you aim for a pull-up that utilizes only the back and arms while keeping the waist and abdomen relaxed with the legs straight. And of course, breathing is important. Coordinate your breathing with the muscles of the back. Exhale deeply and inhale fully to synchronize your breath with the muscle contractions. By doing this consistently until the end of each repetition, you will enhance your performance. When you exhale, your sides contract. By utilizing this, the range of muscle contraction and extension expands, making it easier for the muscles to develop. As you perform pull-ups, it does get tougher in the later repetitions. The number of repetitions varies for each person, but it definitely becomes more challenging towards the end. At that moment, when it starts to get tough, you should not let your form break down and do it like this. That is absolutely not the way to go. It was going up like this. When it gets tough, you should stop at about 7/10, halfway, or 3/10. Gradually make it shallower and finish without breaking form. I want you to maintain this until the end without collapsing. If you make a mistake here, you might unknowingly start to break down, and by the first or second attempt, you could already be falling apart. To avoid that, you should keep going until you feel like you're about to collapse. And if you're at the basics, just keep making it shallower and focus on form. It's about the number of repetitions you can do. I don't think you necessarily need to reach 10 reps. I want you to do as many as you can. So, with that in mind, I hope you aim to progress from just being able to do pull-ups to actually building your back. If you can do a certain number now, that's great. And for those who still can't do them, I want you to use the current methods as a reference and keep trying. For those people, please make sure to keep this in mind and give it a try. Also, please subscribe to the channel. I'm doing Islam, so please follow me. This is YUJI, your first trainer.